IAF chief today made some very important announcements, viewers, as he detailed how the Pakistan Air Force was clobbered by Indian forces during Operation Sindoor. IAF chief gave details about the number of Pakistani jets that were downed. Kitne mare is a question that was repeatedly asked, and today IAF chief answered it clearly. Six is the figure, viewers, in terms of the Pakistani jets that were downed by India during Operation Sindoor. And this was India's big military success, which also witnessed the longest surface-to-air missile. One of the biggest reasons for that success, viewers, was the S-400, a game-changing Russian air defense system that India purchased, and something that is a key aspect in terms of the four-day conflict during Operation Sindoor, something that the IAF chief also spoke about, saying that this was the Sudarshan Chakra for India, and said it was a game changer for the Indian forces. Let's play out first what exactly IAF chief said here. We come back and talk more on this.
Their aircraft tried to penetrate our defenses. Our air defense systems have done a wonderful job. The S-400 system, which we had recently bought, has been a game changer. The range of that system has really kept their aircraft away from their weapons like those long-range glide bombs that they have. They have not been able to use any one of those because they have not been able to penetrate this system.
Let's also now get you the kind of warfare record that the IAF had set. And this, in fact, is an animation video, an AI-generated video that tells you the kind of record that the Indian Air Force had set. And this was because of S-400. Let's put that out, that animation that tells you the trajectory that actually was traversed from the Adampur Air Base till 300 kilometers ahead, unprecedented in recent warfare. That is what that animation was actually telling you in terms of the longest range surface-to-air intercept of aircrafts, 300 kilometers plus range, unprecedented in recent warfare, massive validation in terms of S-400 missile system that India purchased. And the Pakistani jets were destroyed despite deep knowledge of S-400. This is very important, viewers, because this is the kind of validation that we will be speaking more on this broadcast right now, the major validation of Indian Air Force Air Defense Network. Let's also now tell you what exactly is the S-400, the Sudarshan Chakra that the IAF chief also spoke about. Why is it such a game changer, and will that lead to larger changes or possible recalibration for India going forward is something that we will tell you more and decode in detail. But first up, let's get you that big details as far as India's Sudarshan Chakra, advanced long-range air defense system for India. Then next up, in terms of a mobile surface-to-air missile system, it intercepts and destroys aerial targets. It has a range of about 400 kilometers at an altitude of 30 kilometers, which is why it is cutting-edge technology. And number of targets it can actually engage simultaneously, 36. That's the number that exists. And it can actually destroy stealth aircraft and missiles and is equipped with 4 types of missiles. And you can see then why this is so important. Right now we have 3 of these squadrons. The remaining 2 are expected to be delivered next year, and which is why this is so important, and it's considered more advanced than the US version, which is the third version that some of the other US allies use around the world. This is considered to be more advanced than that. To talk more on this, let's quickly now, in fact, rope in our big guest joining me this evening, General Malik, who's the former Indian Army Chief. Thank you so much, General Malik, for speaking to us on NDTV, for taking out the time. Let me start first by asking you, sir, your first reaction to the statement that was made by the Indian Air Force Chief today when he spoke about the exact number of jets that have been downed by India as far as the damage that that Indian Air Force has done to Pakistan during Operation Sindoor.
Good evening to you. Firstly, I must mention that whenever any chief of the services or armed forces makes a statement, it is considered to be the factual, authentic, and most credible statement. So let there be no doubt about his statement, because I saw it on the X, some people abroad doubting that statement also. And I am quite appalled about that kind of attitude. As far as Op Sindoor is concerned, I think it is one of the unique operations that we have conducted. Within 4 days, we have been able to cause so much of damage to Pakistan, which has never happened earlier, without any casualties to ourselves. I'm talking of the human being. And the kind of planning that was done, the kind of clearance that was given, the kind of freedom of action that was given, I think that is most praiseworthy. Three aspects are important. First is the selection of the target. Second is the acquisition of the target with the help of intelligence agencies and our surveillance apparatus. And the third is the distraction. And I think this has been done in a most efficient manner. And that is how we have been able to cause so much of damage, and which made Pakistan come to its knees and seek the ceasefire subsequently on the 10th of May. So I feel that the other aspect I want to mention here is that this particular operation has show-caused many things. Firstly, on the political side, I think it has shown strong will and resolve to punish the perpetrators. That is one. Secondly, it was a whole of the nation approach while we carried out Op Sindoor. The other aspect was the Indus water treaty that has been put in abeyance. Then the new indigenous weapons that have been showcased during this, and particularly Akash, I think they have proved to be the most effective and very credible weapon system, air defense system that we have got. As far as S-400 is concerned, which you were just now describing, it has done the same kind of work during Kargil war, which was done by Bofors. You know, Bofors became the game changer during Kargil war, and this year and this time, it is the S-400 which has become the game changer. It has been proved now that one of the most effective air defense system that we have acquired in the recent years.
Okay.
I think it was, the whole operation was very successfully coordinated, and both, I would say, organizationally it has been conducted very well, by all the three forces getting together, and also the manner in which the whole operation has been conducted on the ground with the new weapon systems and the new technologies that we have acquired. It has been most effective.
Indeed, sir. Indeed. When you started speaking, sir, the point that you made about the disappointment that many people felt that the statement made by our armed forces should be the final word and shouldn't in fact be questioned, debated, discussed, politicized, all of that happened. Let me then ask you, the narratives that were being pushed was that the IAF had its hands tied, and there was some sort of a sinister plan, or there was some other game plan. All of this was actually being discussed, but all of that has actually been junked by the Air Chief today in very clear terms. Your reaction to that, sir?
Firstly, when the war is on, at that time, you cannot speak about your casualties. It's never done. It is done only after that. The other thing is that you require some time to verify whatever facts that you have. And in the armed forces in India, we never give out any information unless it is considered factually correct and we have verified it. So if we have taken some time to be able to come out with this disclosure, it is quite justified. And people who doubt statements from the armed forces, I think they don't know. Personally, if you ask me, so many times I have been told that the service chief's statements are considered more credible than any of the political leaders' statement. Particularly, I'm talking of the war and the defense side. So, as far as I'm concerned, what we have done is the right thing. and at the right time with the right information, factually, which has been verified, then the air chief has made the statement.
Indeed. The other thing that the Air Chief also spoke about was the lessons from the Balakot strike that made the Indian Air Force get proofs to back its big military win. He said that when he said that our own were doubting us earlier. Do you think that's extremely unfortunate, given the fact that when there is a big military win that India has achieved, it should just end there?
Look, as I said, that whenever statements are made by the armed forces, official statements are made by, they should not be doubted. And earlier in the past also, they were never doubted. But it is surprising to see now some of the opposition leaders doubting those statements. The other thing, as far as Balakot is concerned, we really did not have the right photographs or proof of what happened inside. While we hit those targets and we had our estimates, but as I said, they were estimates and they were not totally confirmed. They were not verifiable at that time because we didn't have that kind of capability. This time there is no doubt at all. Absolutely no doubt, because the photographs it is not only satellite imagery, but also some of the photographs that have now been acquired, there should be no doubt in anybody's mind.
All right. And General Malik, finally, then let me ask you this question in terms of the facts that were laid bare today by the IAF chief, where he spoke about the kind of military victory that India had during Operation Sindoor. The 6 Pakistani jets that were downed also comes at a time when hopefully that should put an end, do you think, to the politics around Operation Sindoor that's been going on now for the last 3 months almost?
I hope so. I hope so. The fact is, I personally feel that our successes of Op Sindoor have been underplayed somehow. And but now that the proofs are there, and particularly when the Air Force chief himself has made those statements, there should be no doubt in anybody's mind. No service chief will ever make a statement in public unless that information has been totally verified and it is credible.
All right, we leave it there. General Malik, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV on a day when IAF chief has spoken and laid bare the facts with regard to the big military win that India had as far as Operation Sindoor is concerned. Many were asking that how many jets were downed by India. That figure stands at 6, clearly mentioned by IAF chief, besides the several other big military targets that were in fact down. Thank you so much, General Malik, for speaking to NDTV. Now, viewers, as we talk about S-400 in terms of the Sudarshan Chakra, the game changer that it was, there are also several other ramifications of the statements that were made today by the Air Chief. First and foremost, this comes amidst a possible recalibration of the linkages between India and the US with regard to trade, and also India and Russia, given the larger geopolitical headwinds. Now, let's try and connect the dots here. On one end, Donald Trump has slapped massive tariffs on India, even as he wants New Delhi to double down on our growing defense purchases from the US. But here's the catch, viewers. Russian defense system, the Sudarshan Chakra, the game changer in Operation Sindoor, could become more significant going forward. Already there is a clamor to get more S-400s, in addition to the 2 that are set to be delivered next year. There is also a greater realignment in terms of the bilateral ties that India and Russia have and share. They are deep, they're historic, they are ones that have been strategic in nature for several decades. Vladimir Putin will be in India soon, in the next couple of months. All this in the backdrop of the major geopolitical headwinds that are going on. So on one end is the military and tactical war wins that the IAF chief spoke about, and how the clobbering that the Pakistani Air Force was subjected to on the hands of Indian Air Force. On the other hand is the diplomatic recalibration. Remember, India is the world's second largest defense buyer, and its defense purchases are at the intersection of military strategy, geopolitical strategy and foreign policy. And this is the big focus that we will try and get you more details of when we decode with our Power Pack panel. Joining us this evening, we've got Kushal Mehra, who is an author and podcaster. We have Dr. Tara Kartha, who is a former director of the National Security Council Secretariat. And we'll also connect with Professor Anuradha Chinoy, someone who understands the Russian and Central Asian studies very well at the JNU. In fact, we have Professor Chinoy as well with us. Thank you so much, all three of you, for joining me on NDTV this evening. And this is a question I throw open to the panel, because at the end of the day, as I said, one end is the devastating list of Pakistani losses that we've spoken about, that the IAF chief detailed in great clarity today. And on the other end are these trade tensions, defense purchases, all of which are getting recalibrated. Dr. Kartha, let me start with you.
I think that's a really difficult question, Gauri, because things are moving so fast that it's difficult to keep track. You had, Trump just a day before NSA visited Moscow, he signed that executive order for additional tariffs, 25% more. So that looked like a pressure tactic, which in turn would bring Russia to the table. That is one part. The other part is what the air chief chose to say at this point of time. And the main question is, why did he say it now and not earlier? Which is open to question. But I think that what the chief just spoke, the former air chief just spoke on your show, is that our service people never make statements unless they have checked, rechecked, and made 100% sure of what they're saying. Which is why even during Balakot, you remember, they were very restrained in what they said. That is one. Number two is that immediately during the war, after the war was finished, the Operation Sindoor was done, you don't want to go out and you wanted to end this, which was like, again, what the air chief said is your biggest victory, and people have not understood this. That you went in, you got your objectives, and then you got out again. And you stopped the war. That people have not recognized. That is such an amazing thing that you were able to do. But if you want to do that, you don't talk too much about Pakistan casualties, because that then creates another cycle of violence. So there's a lot of reasons here. But I was very, very proud to hear that the chief talk about this. Hopefully it will also stop the hundreds of doubters within this country itself who's talking of proof at the
Let's
most.
hope for that. Let's just hope for that, Tara Kartha. That's the only thing I can say, because questions won't stop, and this you must give us proof brigade. I think that is something that's deeply disturbing at many levels. But Professor Anuradha Chinoy, let me bring you in before I get in Kushal Mehra as well, which is that we were talking on a day when there is massive validation of S-400, the Sudarshan Chakra for India. The IAF chief spoke about it as a big game changer. We're also talking at a time when President Putin is set to be in India. Dates are the only thing that need to be finalized. Defense partnership is one of the core areas of the India-Russia relationship. Do you see that getting a fresh fillip in the wake of so many extra factors that are happening, and also the validation that the IAF chief spoke about?
Look, as far as the validation is concerned, he's correct, because we saw the same thing happen at the front in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine, and in Iran, which also used the S-400s at the time of the Israel-US attacks. So India is quite clear on the S-400s and Russian defense equipment, and I think they will not compromise on it, tariffs or no tariffs. And as far as the tariffs are concerned,
do you think more of these purchases will happen? That's my point. Do you think more of these purchases will happen?
Yes, it's most likely, because the S-400 is the best system. So why compromise on it? And as far as the tariffs is concerned, again, I don't think there'll be any compromise from India's side about taking Russian oil and defense purchases as far as our needs are concerned. So, of course, the air chief's validation is fine, etc. But I think those who've been watching the battlefields recently do know about the importance of the S-400s and how a lot of Russian equipment has repeatedly proved itself. Of course, one has to leave it to the military experts, but this is my understanding.
All right, let's get in Kushal Mehra on this. Kushal, now this is not good news for Donald Trump. He's a man who likes planes to be gifted to him. He wants gold embossed phones to be gifted to him. He wants all defense purchases to come to him and his country, because, that's the whole MAGA argument, isn't it? But Russian defense and Russian arms being so successful for us is not good news for him. More so since he wants the entire weapons purchase to come from America.
Actually, on the contrary, now we can understand why he's so pissed off against us for the last few days. I think we should actually do some backward integration right now. With the press conference today, we can actually put the pieces together of why Donald Trump has been throwing a hissy fit as far as we are concerned. And from Modi's my best friend to whatever new shenanigans we're doing over here as far as the India-America bit is concerned, we can put the pieces together now. But I still, there is no reason why we should not trust our armed forces and their statement. I'm one of those that, if it comes to the statement from my army, I'm going to trust them. Obviously, we are a democracy. We are free to ask questions. But Trump is, now I actually have some closure on why Trump is mad at us.
I haven't even begun to start asking you about the F-16s that apparently were destroyed. There were several of them. That's what the IAF chief said.
That's the whole idea, right? The F-16 bit is the sore sticking point as far as Donald Trump could be concerned. I mean, this is one of the hypotheses that we can come up with why he's mad at us. And the trade deal, or one day it is the BRICS, one day it's the Russian oil. Maybe all of it is just cover because it was the F-16. And now that, the cat is out of the bag, let's see what Trump comes up with next. I'm actually looking forward to what Trump says about India now. After this press conference, it's going to be another salvo. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to, because with Donald Trump, it's a daily soap opera.
It is. And this is one thing that I keep saying, which is that he can keep dancing on the White House rooftops, but he shouldn't expect that New Delhi will be dancing to his tunes, not for a second. And which brings me to ask this to both Tara as well as Professor Chinoy, which is that in the backdrop of these calculations that are going on in Trump administration, you have one of the world's second largest defense purchaser. We are the world's second largest arms importer. We take our decisions in regard to defense purchases, keeping all these long-term calculations in mind. Yes, we have a growing defense partnership with America, but we also have a solid foundation in terms of the Russian weaponry that we have, which get proven on battlefield. Tara Kartha.
Yeah, I would love to go with that and say buy Russian and let's carry on with this, because, they're offering you co-production. There's some amount of technology transfer, not a lot, but some amount. And of course, their involvement in nuclear power. So there is this solid power which is willing to back you and offer you spares during a conflict. I mean, they did that in Sindoor. You had no lack of certain items. But the reality, Gauri, is that you still have to work with Quad. That's the reality. You can't walk away from that. So you've got now the Australians coming in. You're going to talk to the Japanese. So in that, you have to have US weapons. Otherwise, how do you operate with them? It's in practical terms, it's not possible, and it's not, what shall I say, right, that when they object to the S-400s during an operation with them, they have a certain amount of logic on their side. So this is going to be a very careful balancing game. But even then, while I agree with Professor Chinoy, the S-400s, I think, will remain on the table.
S-400s will remain on the table. What next is the question we are asking, and that fine balancing act. Professor Chinoy, with our national security advisor in Russia, with President Putin set to be in India, it's of course not a conversation that's only about Russian oil, right? Because that's something that we will continue. We've said that earlier. We continue to say that. It's our sovereign right. We exercise that. There's much more. And the moment you say it's much more, it is about our deep defense partnership. So help us understand, in the wake of these very strong validation that has come in today, how do you see this India-Russia relationship going forward, more so through the lens of defense, not through the lens of Russian oil, but through the lens of defense?
Well, look, defense has always been a very large component, but let's recognize the fact that from about getting imports about 75 to 80%, it's down to about 45%. So India has diversified. But I would say that what Tara just said, that the transfer of technology is extremely important, giving the codes. Because I did also read the reports, some reports which said that some of the US equipment we are getting have not given us the codes, which is very important during a war and during any for our own defense. So really, I don't think we will shift from the defense platforms. The defense will remain a major component of India-Russia trust and partnership. Of course, the diversification will go on, but we have to also see what is best, as opposed to the political pressure which comes from many Western countries that it's a plus. If you do this, we might lower tariffs. But with Russia, there's no such thing. It's very direct. Of course, there are times when there is a slowdown. But again, I agree with Tara, the way that they have been able to deliver. And then I even remember a point when there was one particular, I think maybe it was some years ago, where the Russians said, and I was present in that meeting, where they said, well, if India requires, we'll take off even our boots and give it to them. So that is a basis of this relationship, and I think it will remain.
Kushal Mehra, come in there. In the backdrop of this history, the present that exists, and that whole MAGA brigade, which, for all you know, if there's anything that is certain about them, is the complete unpredictability. Next week, Trump and Putin will meet in Alaska, and none of these, permutations and combinations may hold. All of this may change. But as things stand right now, how do you see this balancing act now going from here on for India from its defense platform's point of view?
I actually do agree with the other two speakers that as far as India is concerned, it's about Indian defense interests, and whatever serves our interests properly has to be our priority. You cannot, as the old adage goes, you should not put all your eggs in one basket, whether it's the Russian basket or whether it's the American basket. We should do what suits us. As far as MAGA is concerned, listen, we have to stop giving attention to social media noise. Beyond a point, it is just fluff and bluster. And Trump has a unique way of doing things, where Trump plays the bad cop, and the negotiators that are dealing with India will always play the good cop. And in this good cop, bad cop routine, I think Trump doesn't realize that when it comes to negotiating, I think maybe they don't know Indian culture, that every Indian person going to a small retail shop buying things, negotiating and getting a deal is kind of part of our DNA. So I don't know what Trump is thinking. He's going to be tired out eventually with the Indians. We have to look at our interests. I would highly warn Indians of developing any sort of anti-American attitudes or anti-Russian attitudes. It should always be going from what serves Indian purposes, and we just draw some lines in the sand that this is not going to work for us. That should be the way forward. What the MAGA folks say should not be the way we should be looking at. Let's say somebody has a 4 million subscriber base and they say something against India. That should not be the thing that we're paying attention to. We should be paying attention to what the policymakers are saying. And honestly, beyond a point, how can you even take anything President Trump says seriously? He says one thing in the morning, then the other thing in the evening, then the next day he likes someone else, then he says he wants a Nobel Peace Prize, but then he says he doesn't really want it. It's all fluff and bluster. We just have to stick to our line in the sand where we are very clear, and that's the way forward. And I think both the other two speakers have said that it should be about Indian interests. End of the story.
Of course, Indian interests. And as far as President Trump is concerned, yes, you're right that it's hard to decode which way he's going. By the looks of it, he may or may not end any conflicts, but he's most certainly going to get a record number of recommendations in terms of Nobel Peace Prize. So I don't know whether he's going to get that or not, but yes, he's definitely going to get a record number of letters. But then, which brings me to ask you the other aspect, which is very important, because Donald Trump is also someone who's mainstreaming Asim Munir. While we want to dine with President Putin, well, Trump wants to dine with Asim Munir. That's just how it's becoming right now. Now, in the wake of that, in the wake of this realignment that Donald Trump thinks that is going to be like the big ace up his sleeve, as he wants to probably reinvest in the US-Pakistan relationship, Kushal, how does that change things for us? Because that's a very important aspect of how we play out this balancing act, isn't it?
I had tweeted this, that I cannot believe that Donald Trump is going to make India and China come closer. I said it in a tongue-in-cheek way, but he might actually achieve, he may get an award for that. He should. But as far as India is concerned, we should be very wary about anything America does as far as Pakistan is concerned. But at the same time, whatever they do, what is the potential of the damage that can be caused? What can Pakistan offer? Like President Trump made that giant post on Truth Social about finding tons of oil reserves in Pakistan. The natural question should be, was it snake oil? It should not be about what else was there. Was it snake oil? Again, it is all part of a lot of things President Trump does. If India is very clear about its interests, what President Trump does should not matter. And anyways, we have responded. We've already seen the Honorable Prime Minister of India has had a call with Vladimir Putin. Prime Minister Modi is visiting China. There are many other things. I think President Lula also had a talk with Prime Minister Modi. There are ways of dealing with these things. But I would, again, caution Indians of developing this anti-America attitude. I don't think that helps us either. I think we have to look at it in the way we've always looked at it.
Okay,
what
all right.
serves Indian interests?
What does serve Indian interests would be to be very wary of how Trump is looking to probably relook at the US-Pakistan relationship. That is something that we need to be very wary of. And Tara Kartha and Professor Chenoy, let me ask you those final comments in terms of, will that have an impact on how we recalibrate our relationship as far as defense platforms are concerned?
See, as of now, there's nothing.
Sorry.
All they've got is 357 million for their F-16s, which is part of a compact to prevent the F-16s being used against India. It's a technical package. That's all they've got. I mean, they've got the IMF loan, but that has been going on for some years. They've been on IMF drip for years and years and years. Other than that, there is nothing there at all. I mean, Asim Munir can go and have lunch in 10 times, but I would say that is unfortunate for Asim Munir, because the US is one power which actually underlines the fact that there are no free lunches. If he's getting lunch there, he's got to give something back. And if I were Munir, I would be very, very wary of what the US must give.
All right. Professor Chenoy, quick closing comments, ma'am.
Yeah, well, Pakistan Army has always been available for use for the US in Central Asia, in West Asia, in Iran, etc. So Donald Trump would like to be the balancer in South Asia. He would like to pair India and Pakistan, which is not possible. Pakistan, it's a 23rd rescheduling of the IMF debt. They're unable to pay it. But nonetheless, Pakistan will suffer on account of US interests, because for them, their interests are primary, and that is how, they're the ones who had trained the Mujahideen and Afghanistan, and they continue to do it. So we have to be wary that American interests in Pakistan will be consistent, and we have to maneuver around it.
All right, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much, all three of you, for joining in this very special discussion in terms of the validation that S-400 got today and the larger recalibration it could actually kickstart for India from its defense partnerships.